Hello, and welcome to the Save Our Children podcast. We're your hosts, Becky and Bridget. If you've listened to episode 39 with Space Force, then the name D.Cure is not new to you. Today, we're bringing him back to speak to him about his personal story, his military service, and the new music he just dropped. First of all, thank you so much for your service. We want to pause and thank you from us to you for your service and what you've done for this country.
Thank you so much.
But we'd like to start this episode with a clip from your song Home. And so that we can hopefully get through the censorship people. Do you mind if we play that song for our listeners?
Not at all. Please do.
All right. So for those of you watching, I am going to share my screen. All right. Let's make sure. And guys, let me know if we can't hear it. All right, so if you want to go watch more of that, you're going to have to go find it on YouTube. But I love that song. It's got such an awesome beat to it, and it's a really cool song. So thank you for letting us share that.
Of course, yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we wanted to start. We want to be able to discuss your history and your background, but that song is a real strong song, and I'm sure that you are not the only one who's been in that situation. So can you explain kind of the inspiration behind writing that song?
Yeah, so at once upon a time, I found myself to be a really bad alcoholic. I kind of started drinking when I was in high school and kind of just did it for fun, and it kind of rapidly progressed, and over the years I found myself in a really bad place with relationships and kind of the person that I was, and I was really lost and kind of at the end of my rope. And in the song I was asking God to take me home because I was done. I couldn't keep living that way, and I couldn't keep being that person, and so that was kind of me crying out for help. And yeah,
I love on your post with that video, and it touches home for so many people because you get super vulnerable on that song, and just the video overall ties it together. And so when you posted on there and I was reading, I was like, we have to touch on this because so many people can connect and relate to it. And when you said, I was an alcoholic for well over a decade and it almost cost me everything. Just reading those words and then seeing that visual, I saw it and I was like, there's no way you can watch that video without tearing up. And so
it's chills. Every time I hear it, it's chills.
Yeah. So everyone definitely check out that video and share it, just because oftentimes society doesn't want you to think that it's okay to be vulnerable, especially for men. And so seeing that and you showing up authentically, especially on social media with your platform, you have continued to give so many people a voice and courage, because so many people are struggling to make it to the next day, especially right now with everything going on in the pandemic, and
Mm.
even just trying to survive. And so I appreciate you and your creativity and the visuals, especially in the world of censorship. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think for that, to have that story and to make it out of that was, I felt like it would be a disservice to not share my story. And so, um, anytime someone messaged me about that, I'm so glad, because it's very personal, and it was probably one of the toughest songs I've ever written. And so, I know the impact has been pretty big, and so I'm definitely grateful for that.
Yeah, how do you, especially because being an artist and you're so versatile,
Mhm.
how do you bounce from something so vulnerable and deep like that to then jumping on all of the tracks that then are like the rap and like going at
Yeah.
politics and all that, like completely different, which is beautiful because you can
Yes.
expand to so many communities with you being so versatile. But just like mentally, just because that does take a lot energetically, and you're going through your darkest moments and sharing those dark moments with everyone, and then flip side, you're doing other music as well. So how do you do that transition
Mm,
and balance it?
great question. That song was, I honestly had to take some timeouts when I was writing that, because emotionally it was too hard to write. And I kind of wound up back, kind of feeling I was in that moment. And so there were plenty of times where I had to stop and kind of set it down. And that song probably took me the longest, just because I would find it hard to keep writing about something. So
It's raw.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was real. Like the visuals, all that stuff was based on my life. And so, like, the hardest moments of my life, and so I had to set that one down a lot. And most of the other songs come to me pretty easily. I think I've just been doing it for so long, that I can kind of bounce around. But that particular one was, didn't have the same kind of case to it. So yeah, that one was a difficult one. And so I took a lot of breaks, and it probably took me, weeks to get that one done, just because I was like, man, I can't, I'm gonna be a mess if I keep trying to write this.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting, and this is kind of a side note, but speaking to the parents out there on how truly important vulnerability is. I have an 11-year-old son, and we're trying to work on that now. Like he's one of those kids that if he feels emotional, he'll make it into a joke,
Mm,
or he'll like if
yep.
someone accidentally hurt him, he'll either blow up or it's not that big a deal or whatever. And it's like, no, it's okay to be just sad about it. It's
Yep.
okay to be hurt in what you are, because for me, like that starts to make me worry, like, oh God, if you can't even handle this at 11, where are you going to be at 15 or 19 or 25?
Yeah.
That are you really going to be able to speak about these things or laugh about things or cry about? So I actually was literally talking to him last night about, like, do you know what the word vulnerable means? And he's like, no. And so we had to break it down that,
Yeah.
you know what, sometimes if you feel like you need to cry, that's okay. And sometimes if
Yep.
you want to be honest and open with someone, that's okay. And that should be something that we start doing with our young boys, because we're growing men that aren't ready to stand up and be good men.
I think we got to give our own body some credit. When you're feeling
Yeah.
something, it needs to release that. I think when we hold that and bottle it in, then it just causes more problems and more chaos within ourselves. And then we have this inner turmoil that we're battling with.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, we're people, and you have to feel those things, and you can't push them away. That's not the way to deal with them. Just
Doesn't make you
feel
tough.
it.
Mm-hmm.
True.
And that's one thing, you don't shy away from your emotions nor hold back when it comes to speaking out in general and speaking up and being a voice for the voiceless. So even just going off of that, like I even had that talk with my daughter actually on the way to school this morning. It was like she was crying and I'm like, why are you crying? Like,
because I'm 12 and I don't know why.
yeah. And
Yep.
so it was like girl thing, being a teen, getting ready to be a teen. And I'm like, why are you crying? She's like, I was like, is it because your hair? Because I heard her complaining about her hair. I was like, is it because your hair? Or she's like, no, because I have to buy another pin. And it was just a bunch of stuff. And I was like, so is it really because they have uniforms? So if they're out of uniform, they have to wear like this little pin with their school logo. So she's like, I just bought one yesterday. And I was like, so we have two solutions. Me as the parent, we can go back and get one, which I have work. So I'll pay the $5, but you don't have to
Right.
cry about it. Like we'll leave one in the car. So when you get home, like you have
Yep.
when we get out of school, it's right there. I always drive you, it's right there. It's like, but you
Mhm.
don't have to cry about it. But then we went into the whole conversation of her hair. And I was like, what do you care? Like school's not a fashion show. Like, who cares? I was
Hell,
like,
it ain't.
people, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
We
people,
think.
yeah. She's like, well, and that's the thing. Like society puts so much pressure on these kids, and then social
Yep.
media and the labels, and just trying to make everything such a facade in this perfect life. And I'm like, if you have a bad hair day, who cares? Like I have bad hair days too. Like it's not that big of a deal. Just you don't need to cry about it. But if you got to cry, let it out. Like it's
Yep.
all good. Like we'll be all right. But I'm just like, who
At least
cares?
be honest to why you're crying.
Yeah, I'm like, who cares what people think? And if they judge you because you have a little hair fly up or whatever it may be, like,
You
shouldn't
should have been like, I gotcha.
yeah, like you shouldn't let that affect your whole day. Like, don't let that little thing change your whole mood and affect your whole day of, oh, now I'm going to be in this bad mood because I'm worried about everybody else and what they think. So just
Yep.
even having that conversation, and even us as adults in society, we see it now in technology and social media. So just remembering to like deal with those emotions, and like that's the toughest pill to swallow, is going inner and facing yourself. And so even like off this album and Enemy, I wanted to ask you, as far as how did you choose the name of the album? Because when I see that, I'm like, okay, is he talking about like the reflection of himself and the influences and the things that he was doing at that time, and the man that he didn't like those influences, it took him down that dark path? Or like, how did you come up with that album name?
Yeah, it's kind of that. I mean, it's kind of like becoming, seeing myself becoming the enemy. It's the ways, that I'm perceived by, certain people, and it's also how I felt inside at a point, like
Yeah.
who am I becoming? Like I think everyone gets lost, and they find themselves in a dark place. And I felt like I was the enemy, the person that I didn't want to be, that I told myself I would never be, was like the person I became. And so that was kind of like that, but also talking about the ways we get attacked, by the enemy, and, taking a faith kind of aspect and talking about the enemy, because there are things as in society that we just don't talk about. There are things that we keep to ourselves. And so I wanted to open up on that and kind of talk about these things so that we can defeat them, when they present themselves to us. That openness is always been my thing. And I think me talking about like I've struggled with these things is like a key for people to say, okay, yeah, me too. And that's okay.
And then the enemy has less power.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's important to shine light on that stuff, just because like there's so many things we don't talk about, and we see where that has gotten us in the world.
Yeah.
And purposely, I think if we're going to go really into the like whole government, whatever, like purposely, they didn't want us. They made it so that our grandparents wouldn't talk about politics or religion. And so we just never talked about it. And even
Yep.
my family, like half of my family was this way, half of my family was this way, but nobody ever talked about it. And now nobody talks to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you guys never learned how to have a conversation.
Yep.
You don't have to agree, but you'd probably find that 5 out of the 10 things or 7 out of the 10 things you agree with. And then you just disagree on the 3 little points that you can't come to an agreement on. That's different than saying you're this and I'm this and that's that and whatever. And it's like, we've got to start having conversations, because it really is. If you say, I am adamantly against this, and someone's like, but why? Well, because my side says I should be. what? But that's kind of where we're going. And I made
Yeah,
it
yeah.
specifically stupid for a reason, but it's like, we've got to start talking. And that's probably like the benefit and curse of social media is you can hide behind something and you can troll someone and you can be a jerk to everyone, but it's also connected people in a way where it's like, well, I never thought about that before and it triggered me, but why did it trigger me? Because it's not because you're doing it wrong, it's because something in me is bothered by it.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about it. And so I think it's a great thing. And if you can go into life thinking, realizing that your triggers are really something about yourself and not what someone else does,
Very true.
then
Very
it's
true.
not so people are not yelling at each other.
I've definitely lost close friends, in the hip hop community because suddenly, I was talking about my beliefs and people, will close the door to me because of that. And it's tough lessons that we have to learn to kind of find our way through. But, hopefully one day we can kind of rebuild those friendships, but sometimes we can't. And, that's what can you do,
Yeah.
And when you dig deep, it's kind of like you were saying, when you dig deep, you find out things about that person and you're like, well,
God knew what they were talking about behind closed doors. So
yeah.
Well, too, even just knowing that everyone has a role in this and everyone is on a different journey. And
Mhm.
it's okay if some people aren't quite where we may be and what we believe. And even just knowing, like, you could still come to us and have a conversation. It doesn't make anyone better than the other person. It's just, it's a hard, it's like a reflection. So they can't have that conversation because they don't want to go inner, and it's too hard. And so
Mhm.
many people shy away from that emotion, and then you find out later what they're dealing with, and that's where some people then turn to suicide, and the mental health aspect is just a mess. And
Yeah.
so just like even knowing it's okay if we all don't agree on something, we should still be able to have a conversation and then be like, oh, let's go here, let's go do something, or let's go on vacation. Like, you should be able to have those discussions, because like, if it's really your true friend, and your family should always be there, but you should be able to basically lift each other up and
Mhm.
watch each other grow. And that's what makes each other a better person. And then overall, you change different things in your family and you break those generational curses and all of the trauma. And then you change the next generation, because now you're you're making that change in your family to then go out to society and be like, it's okay to not be
Yep.
okay. Like, we can have this discussion. So looking at that aspect as well. And even just like you going on to your, like, down your journey and everything you went through, can you take us on the path of then you walking in your purpose and being a man of God, a vet, a husband, and then sobriety? Like, that's huge, as many people don't usually get that far as sobriety, and most will turn to suicide, or the mental health will take them down a different path.
Oh yeah. For me, I was fortunate enough to be raised in the church, and that gave me something to fall back on because I got lost, for a long time. When I went and joined the military, I was just a kid that was stationed in England, and the drinking age was 18, and I was 18, and that was like,
Hell yeah,
here
let's
it
do
goes. Yeah.
it.
And that was kind of like the beginning of my life falling apart, every day kind of slowly getting a little darker. And I was married early, like right when I joined the military, and was divorced, and kind of continued down the path of drinking, like constantly choosing alcohol over people, letting that kind of win and take over my life. And was married again years later, and got divorced again because my drinking was so bad. And everything was just completely falling apart. um, and at the end of the day, after many years, I was in the Air Force for 11 years, and ultimately that was like kind of um, near the end. My commander was like, we're going to recommend that you not re-enlist. and
Oh,
we're gonna kind of let you finish your term. I had like less than a year at that point, and they sent me to rehab because there was a point where I tried to take my life. I don't know if I really spoke about that in the song, but um, yeah, so there was another relationship that I was in, and she had walked out on me basically, and I decided to kind of drink everything that I had in my house, and got to the point where I was kind of like in and out of it, like blacking out, and somehow wound up on the phone with the suicide hotline. But I also had a pistol on me, and I was in a real bad place. I was drinking. I kind of had a bottle in one hand, a gun in the other hand, and that phone on my shoulder. And luckily they were able to trace where I was at, because I was, about to do it. And kind of the next thing I remember, I'm waking up in the hospital, and my commander and my supervisor were all there, and they're kind of like wanting me to be admitted to some kind of asylum out there in California. And the military, luckily enough, was like, we'll kind of take responsibility for him. We'll get him sent to rehab in San Antonio. And so we're like, okay, cool. And then, so kind of once I was released from the hospital, they took me home, and my supervisor was like, look what you did, and points to the ceiling, and there was a bullet hole in the ceiling. And in that moment, it was kind of like,
holy
I'm
shit.
done. Like, I have to be done, or I'm going to be dead. And so that was like the moment I realized that God was with me this whole time, watching me struggle, but he needed me to go through that in order to change, because otherwise I would have just kept drinking. I needed to be lifted out of that and really shocked. So yeah, I feel I was saved. I feel that gun came away from my head, the last second. And I don't even remember doing that, and then I was sent to rehab, and my life turned around from there, and obviously it was hard to not drink again, but actually next month will be 7 years for me. So thank you.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
God definitely has a purpose, a bigger purpose in your life, because you're right. It was there. You literally pulled the trigger and God moved it. And that's something, thank you for sharing that, because
Of
that is
course.
something people definitely need to hear. But on the positive side, that's what God can do. And that is something Bridget and I were actually just having this conversation this morning, that we are so hung up in the evil of the world that we forget the power that God has. Like you talk about the people in the Bible, and
Mm.
that there's, God says, hey, bring your measly little army up against this big army over here, and if you trust me, we're going to get through this. And they trust him, and we get through it. And
Yep.
we're at a state where we don't trust it anymore. We were talking to a guest the other night, and he was talking about how, like, the Hebrews went to the Red Sea and God parted it because all of them believed that God would part it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're over here like, what is God going to do for us? Not a damn thing, because we're all over here acting a fool.
Yep. Yeah, Joseph gets betrayed by his brothers and gets thrown in jail, and
Yep.
he believes in God, and
Mm-hmm.
everything works out, but
I
yeah.
say that doesn't mean it's good through the valleys, but
Right.
it's definitely, there's something bigger. And so my theory with the world is either everything gets better because God fixes it, or we all blow up and we go to heaven. Either way, it's a good outcome for the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that literally this morning, and I just said, so many people want to take tabs on who's doing what. Like, we're at the point where we know it's bad, especially being in the human trafficking world and like standing out against it. We know how bad and deep those rabbit holes are. Are we ever going to find out the complete truth? No, the government's lied. It's all illusion. They just want to cause division. So for us, we're just at that point of, like, all the dark energy. We're just like, the only way we can combat that, because so we don't bring ourselves down and get in that dark mental state, the only thing that we can do is literally have faith in God and know that we have to shine a light on it, but at the same time, shift what we're doing and being true to ourselves. And we have to say, okay, am I adding to this dark energy, or am I bringing out the light and shifting it? And so that's what we often go back and forth with, is just like, we know it's bad, but the only thing we can try to do right now is shine light and just have faith in God.
Yep.
And know that
Yep.
we were prepared. We were prepared ahead of time for a reason, and to stand in that truth and lead.
It feels the same, you know, with the music too. It's like the intention of what we're doing is to help people, and ultimately people are offended and turn it and kind of flip it around
Are
and make
offended
it
about
dark.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we try to keep that in mind, and keep our faith, and keep our eyes on the word, and really just stay centered and focus on what truly matters, because man, we can get wrapped up in that stuff. And it's good to have the right people around us to kind of keep us level-headed, and keep us grounded.
Well, and I think with your music, the coolest thing about it is, you're right. People could say, well, you're constantly bringing up the negative or whatever crap. Fine. The idea is your music allows all of us to realize we're not alone. And so again, when you say you have a #1 this, or it's on the top 10 or whatever, that means that all of these people are also listening to it, which is, even though the world wants you to believe you're alone and they want us to be divided, that means that there are 3 million other people out there listening to the same song. Okay, let's go find those 3 million people.
Yep.
And that's what we really need to keep reminding ourselves. Like, there's more of us out there.
Yeah.
And I love that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think for most of us believers, we're so used to being so nice that we stay quiet when this stuff comes up. And so it's hard for people to know who to talk to. I have people always reaching out to me like, thank you for saying what you're saying. But I'm not going to say anything, but thank you for doing it, kind of thing. We're so used to being nice. We have manners, and that's kind of how we were raised, to be polite and, watch what we say. And so I think a lot of people are scared to stand up and fight. So I think it also gives people strength in a way. So that helps us to keep going.
Yeah. Well, and music is the universal language.
Mm-hmm.
So just knowing that your music is shared globally, and so many people are using that, and how you guys are turning it to light and you're calling it out, and you get censored even though it's already been in the news. But again,
that's all right. We'll just record it from the back end. I've already seen it. Like, it got censored off YouTube, and I've already seen other people put it back out on YouTube for you.
Yeah,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I tried to re-upload it today. I don't know if you saw that post, but 2 seconds into uploading, they blocked it. So
yeah.
They're watching.
For sure. We have a strike too. Welcome to the YouTube strike club.
Everyone needs one or two.
Yeah, right.
But just going off of that, like, your music is also giving so many people who are in countries right now who their rights are stripped away from them. So knowing that that music is uniting the world right now, like, you guys are making a global impact and a shift, and really leading that. And so I know, like, as we go into our next couple podcasts, we'll be talking about the message and inspiration behind the music. And we want to tie that, because you're more than artists. Like, you guys have opinions too. You have families. Like, we're all human, and everyone's voice matters. And just knowing that you guys can take a stand, and you don't shy away from the politics or anything going on in the world, like, you guys aren't fearful. And I think people often forget, you guys being being vets, you were built for this. So
yeah,
that's even more powerful.
Right.
It's funny. I say the exact words in a song actually that I'm on with Topher, that's on his new album. So
Nice.
Great minds think alike, right?
I said that to my boss a couple of weeks ago, because like my company was doing the whole mandate, and I was like, and I'm out, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to figure it out. And he's like, well, are you gonna be okay? And I was like, oh no, I was made for this. Like my mom used to call me stubborn. Like little did I know when I was 4 and in daycare and wouldn't eat the coleslaw for a sheet of stickers, that was literally going to be me 40 years later, almost 40 years later, standing up for what this country and standing up for my kids. Like, no, you either are made for this or you're not. And here we are.
Yeah, I got stubborn and persistent a lot. So
yep, exactly.
That's
Bossy.
fine.
My favorite question was why. And then even if you told me, I said why again. Like I needed everything.
Got to know the answers.
Well, and again, that's where we're at. How many people in the world right now are like, okay, you're like, well, you didn't even ask why that would be a bad idea. Like, let's just all go walk off the edge of the cliff. No one thought why would be maybe like, yeah, don't. Like, no one thought, no, this is probably not the best idea. Like, you know what's happened, but people are so
Yep.
wild.
Believe it all.
Yep. And we're crazy because we question it. The whole thing, it's so backwards. Like your shirt, make it make sense.
That's all we want. That's all we want.
It's going off of make it make sense and dealing with censorship and adversity and all of that, and going into your new song and the fact that it already got pulled within 23 minutes off YouTube. Shout out to YouTube for hating. But
and shout out to you guys for making such a good song.
Right? Badge of honor.
Success.
Yep.
Just going off of that though, and like dealing with adversity. So many artists will shy away and won't touch the topics you guys are touching on. So you guys standing up and making the tracks you are and collaborating with so many artists right now, how do you deal with adversity in the entertainment industry, especially when you're speaking out against such a satanic culture? And then 2, going off of that, how do you deal with adversity in your daily life if you're dealing with like family struggles or any problems that you're dealing with in your own life?
I think the biggest part is it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just having those people that get it, the people that are in your community, because like without the Marine rapper, Topher, Bryson, Tyson, like all these guys that get it and understand like what the message is and what we're trying to do, it would be very tough, to be out there doing this by yourself. So respect to those guys, for also doing what they're doing and for, being open to work, with kind of across the board with us. I think that's the power in numbers kind of thing, because I'm used to just rapping like hip hop stuff, like the usual, like just being creative and not really having much of a message. And that's, people were fine with that. But, once it got into, okay, I'm going to start talking about God and I'm going to start talking about, the things that I believe in, then
everyone goes,
Yep. And really quickly, you kind of see who really supports you for you and who supports you for being normal and, not standing out, not doing anything different. And I learned very quickly, kind of with some of those songs. And, it's been a challenging couple of years, but also it's been nice to be around truth and, to be around the right people, because I've done all that. I've been around alcoholics and, drug users and, people that I were certainly not helping me in any way, that were happy to share in the misery and let me live there with them. And so I was just kind of done being that normal guy. So
truth. Well, thank God you're not the normal guy anymore.
Yeah.
I get that. And that was hard. That seems to be, it's kind of the theme for everybody in the last few years is I was just kind of going along to go along. And it wasn't that I've never been like a meek, quiet person, but I've always like, is it worth the argument? Is it worth having that thing? Like, I'm not going to post that because I don't want to fight about it, or I'm not going to do this. And really over the last 2-3 years, it's this, like, really ever since COVID showed up, it was like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. And I'm sick and tired of sitting back and letting you, whoever you is, dictate what I'm supposed to think and feel. And so then you start to speak out and you start to find your truth. And you lose people and your family thinks you're crazy and you do all these things until they find out you were right. And then they come back around. But it was it's this, but the same message is, it was a plan. Like there was a plan for me. I was supposed to speak out, and those people were supposed to go away, even if it was hard and it hurt and I was depressed or anxious or whatever, because I'm here at this moment now. And I would never have been there had I still been the person I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yep. You find these little pieces of purpose along the way.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Everything just flows. Like it all just comes and it just aligns. God is literally his long girl journey. And if you just surrender and have faith, like you'll be amazed at the work and the amazing things that happen.
You make it sound like it's super easy. Like just
It's
give
not.
it up. Just kidding.
I'm not gonna say it's not, because I'm not, like I've had my own stuff, and like we all have.
Yeah.
But again, it takes you as a person wanting to go inner and shift that and say, and look at both aspects and say, like, especially for me in like relationships, I could sit here and say and blame my exes or whatever, but then what's that going to do for me? That's just knocking that person, because they have their own struggles too. So just understanding one another and listening, but then also knowing that somebody else is going through something too. So for me, when I then had to step back, and even in family relationships, not just like the dating world, but looking back and saying, okay, what is that person going through? And really sitting to listen, to understand versus listen to respond, like that changed so much for me. And then learning to set boundaries and say no. And like, then looking at myself and saying, am I enabling this? Because now I'm only hurting myself, and it's changing who I am as a person, because I'm not being able to be authentic in who I am, because now I'm changing to fit into this bubble or this bubble. And so knowing that once you do step into your own truth and you face yourself and like just be free and then be you, more of people who align with you will come to you naturally, just based off your energy and being your authentic self. Because then I know you guys can relate, you can hang out and you can actually be comfortable and like, oh, I can't do this because this person or that person. So just
ain't got no time.
trying to fit in that box.
We don't have time for those loops.
Right?
Jumping through hoops and all that.
Too much.
Which I know this is going to be off your music a minute, but I have to talk about your little videos that you do on Instagram, because they crack me up. They're just goofy. And they do, like, every time I'm like, your wife, is that actually your wife who's speaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she'll say, can you bring me whatever? And then you come back, it's like, okay, what is he possibly going to figure out with whatever? I think one of the most recent ones I saw was the hamburger helper. For those who haven't seen it, it's just funny and it's goofy, and that's what makes me laugh. But it's just funny because you helped a hamburger out of the middle of the street. It's like, what? And that's exactly like, what was that? But it was just funny. Have you always been kind of that sort of funny where you're just like, everything's goofy and whatever, I'm gonna make a joke out of it?
Yeah, I think that's a side that not a lot of people get to see though. So we wanted to kind of share that, because I'm actually kind of shy. So until I kind of warm up to people and, they kind of see me for me, then that's when I kind of get into being goofy like that. So I think that was kind of important. And when I started those was like in the height of COVID, and, everyone was depressed and stuck at home. And so I was like, well, the people need these. And
that you haven't run out of them.
No, the list continues.
Yeah, so one just went viral on TikTok. Wasn't it your pantyhose one?
Pantyhose, yeah.
I thought I was like, that one was funny. I was like, okay, how's he gonna make this one work? And I was like, oh, yep, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's helpful to spend a lot of my time with words, like writing lyrics, and so I think that kind of makes it easy for me to purposely mess words up. And yeah.
Did you ever do that to your wife though? Like, did she ever actually ask you for something and then you'd bring her home nonsense and she'd be like, what the hell?
No, no, only on purpose.
Okay.
For the videos.
Okay. I didn't know you did that to her, and she's like, this would be a funny Instagram
thing. She is super helpful. She actually has a master's in English and creative writing. So she does help me a lot with
Yeah.
dialogue, like you should say this. And so it's a great, just a great time to be a team and
I
be funny.
I feel like I would sit in your house and I would have no idea what you were talking about. You would just speak words and I'd be like, I don't know what this means. Just smiling on.
Yep, that always works.
I love that though, because like she even does like I've seen all her social media posts and always giving people tips and encouragement too. Like you guys, like your posts, like I love them, especially like because for our podcast we are usually talking about darker topics and human trafficking and stuff that people shy away from. So people are like, well, what keeps you guys sane, or how do you do it? I'm like, I turn to your guys' post and I'm well, let's see, if we're talking about satanic ritual abuse today, I need to listen to like all light stuff and like and like because we have to even get ourselves in a mental state to have those conversations.
Of course.
And so I love your guys' posts because they help me out on those days. I turn to those for inspiration of knowing that we're going to have a hard podcast that day. So I love it. And you guys work as a team. So I could only imagine like you guys have fun. And I think that's another thing too, like going into marriage is like this generation in society that's not something they value anymore. So seeing like how you two are both entrepreneurs and really embodying that marriage and showing like the balance of you two both doing that is a beautiful blessing in itself. So thank you for modeling.
Thank you. Yeah.
You don't see
Thank
that
you.
nowadays.
If we're helping and having a good time, I mean, it's hard to get better than that. So
Right?
if I get to help someone else have a good day, then count me in.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially because people are always like happy wife, happy life. And it's like, what about the guys too? Like
No, that's true. No, happy wife, happy life is how it works.
Well, that's priority. And then what does the guy want too? Later.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
and then once I'm happy, then
there you go. Yeah.
so
Priorities.
I love that balance.
Yeah, right.
You guys, she balances it with you too. So I love it.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, she's actually the funny one. She when she moved to California, that's where we met. She actually was going to do stand-up comedy.
Oh,
And
wow.
so she's really funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the more outgoing one. I'm kind of the quiet one, but it's a great balance.
I love it.
But it's fun. And I think like Bridget said, you just need to have that outlet, and those sorts of things allow you to relate to people, because someone's like, well, I would have done that, or my dad is goofy enough, he would have done something like that, or whatever. Like I can't write music and I can't write poetry or I can't sing, but I could make something goofy like that and follow in that. Like, so it's multiple things. Like I'll listen to your music, but then also you're really down to earth and cool, because if you're going to do that, you're not embarrassed to be like uncool or whatever.
Right.
But I love the idea with marriage. It like there's not enough good examples of it. Like my husband and I will be married 17 years in June.
Nice.
And there is not enough people out there who think that that's a big deal or think that that's important. Although I'm like, well, 17 years. Yeah, that's just what happens. You're just married forever. Not so much. That's
not always.
Yeah, not always. I mean, my parents were divorced, so I fully understand that. But people also need to realize again that takes a lot of damn work, because I don't want to say it's easy. It's not easy to get divorced. It's hard to not get divorced. It's hard to say, I love you enough that I'm going to help. I'm going to fix me. I'm going to help you, and we're going to figure this out.
Yeah. You got to have the right intentions and keep them. I mean, you can't let those go, or then you're letting them go, or letting them down.
Yeah.
Going back into your music and your new song, Make It Make Sense. If we can break down some of the lyrics, just because.
Uh-oh.
I know. Watch the whole thing shut down. She's going to break the internet right now.
Before it's even posted.
Right?
Seriously. They found us.
It's okay. We're censored. We all are. But just going into the lyrics, like as a mother, and when I heard that song, and I've been blasting it all day. And for those of you who are listening to this, we're speaking on the day of the release, January 21st. So by the time this airs, the song will already is out. So just going off of that in the lyrics and being a mother and hearing some of the lyrics, and I was like, oh damn, they went in, especially like hearing guys talk about pro-life and speaking out again, like speaking out for it and advocating, like that's huge, because especially speaking in the trafficking world, and I know that I've talked to you guys multiple times offline, as far as you even giving us a platform and sharing our podcast with us talking about human trafficking. So many artists and people with platforms, the minute that we put human trafficking in like the podcast description, all of a sudden they shy away from it. They don't want to talk about those topics. And when I first reached out to you, no questions asked, you're like, yeah, let's do it. But when we reach out to other people and people with platforms, it's just so many people want to shy away from those topics and are scared for the entertainment industry and losing what they want to play the line, and they don't want to stand in
Big
the
time.
truth. Yeah. So just even your new song and speaking out, if we can break down some of those lyrics, especially like the one that first caught my attention was, you rather kill a kid than wear a latex. They rather kill a kid than practice safe sex. Like those lines, I was like, let me rewind this a couple more times. And I blasted
Did
it.
you really just say that? Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for speaking
I
on
did.
stuff like that.
Of course. I mean, it's going to be hard to convince me that every person and every living being doesn't have purpose, and that God didn't put them here on earth for a reason. And I truly believe that, and I'll stand by that forever. So every kid is important. And to, just, I feel like a lot of people have this like mentality of, I don't want any, what's the word? Like repercussions, like, no, I just want to live my life as carelessly as possible. And
no accountability.
Right. And so that was kind of, the first couple lines of my verse, just because it's something that has to be said. And I get tired of, people with that mentality, like, just let me live and, cause a mess of other people's lives and, be kind of a disgrace. And so, yeah, it had to be said.
Yeah, and it needs to be said, because you don't, that is a very even extreme thing, but even just being an asshole to people all the time, you don't know who you're hurting or what ripple effect that has to whatever. And in the inverse, just being nice and smiling to people, you have no idea, or smiling at people, you don't know what that could cause. And so, yes, abortion and that's an extreme that we definitely need to talk about. But just like your idea of there's no accountability, well, I can have my opinion on whatever. Okay, well, you can, and then someone's going to clock you in the face.
Yeah.
How that works.
Just want to have wild sex all the time and not, care about what happens later is kind of like, well,
but society's created that too, because we're like, well, the woman has the right to do whatever. The woman has the woman's responsibility. The woman this. It's like, wait a minute, that's not how I thought children were made.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Very true.
Well,
always takes two.
You could be whatever you want these days, and all the propaganda being pushed is crazy.
True.
Wild.
We were just at, speaking of, and this is so unrelated to anything, we were just at Joanne's, and we were walking out, and there is a very tall, very much a man, but with long hair, and had all of the gay pride, transgender, everything all over the place. And of course I was like, oh, crying out loud. And I said, and my 13-year-old was with us. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, the guy in there with this band. He goes, that was a guy. I was like, was a very ugly woman if it wasn't. So here we are, like, you do you, but no, come on, let's stand up against crazy.
It was funny. I saw something on Twitter today that was like, a trans woman is still a woman. And then Bryson had commented, why do they need to put trans in front of it then? Like, what? Makes you
The
think.
woman.
Yeah. Yeah. For all that stuff, I mean, I just kind of want to pray for him. You know,
Yep,
that's
exactly.
a tough one. I feel like, you know, something might have happened that, you know, we don't know about. That's kind of goes back to we don't know what people are going through. So
know it. Exactly.
And all of that too, it's like the part, like, and again, we're going to make this clear. We're not like going against anyone who is trans, LGBTQ, that whole community. We're not going against any of them.
correct.
The kids alone.
All we're saying, especially like us speaking and standing out against wanting to end human trafficking and knowing the pedophilia agenda being pushed. And I'm going to clarify it. I'm going to clarify it so our words don't get twisted, because we often get attacked for this. When it comes to that and the agenda is being pushed, leave the children alone. Let them be a child. Do not push it on the child, because right now we have a generation who is so confused. It's being pushed in the shows. It's being pushed in the entertainment industry. You have the one guy, I'm not even going to give his name, sliding down the pole and twerking on Satan's lap. That's not okay for a child to watch. So for parents who are letting their children, no judgment, but I'm going to say it.
But she's going to judge.
I'm going to say it anyways. Is if your kid is watching Disney, sit down and challenge yourself as a parent to watch their shows for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And
it's
really pay attention to what is on the walls and in the background and the symbolism of those shows. Listen to what they're talking about, from the witchcraft to the spells to Satan literally plastered everywhere. So when you see, when you see
that,
Disney took a turn, huh?
Yeah.
Well, and now they're connected with Nickelodeon. They're like one company.
Man.
And so we were watching something. I think it was the same video or same show that your daughter saw the people coming out from the tunnels.
Yeah.
In Captain Some Nonsense. And literally it panned over. There was a guy sitting in a dress with his legs crossed. And I went, whoa, what? And that person had nothing to do with the scene, but was still in the background.
So just like even speaking on that, and like knowing that, having a daughter and knowing that, like, we often have these conversations, and her only being 12, but we've had to have conversations about sex, drugs, porn, all of that at such a young age. It's like we didn't even have those conversations as kids, as young as 6, 7 years old. So it's just wild. We were outside playing with dolls and like kickball, the neighbor, like, so just looking at that agenda and just seeing like this little artist went from little cowboy, I'm gonna sing, do TikToks and make it fun, to grooming your child, to now sliding down a stripper pole and pushing OnlyFans. Like, you literally are pushing rape culture. You're pushing grooming. You're pushing, by the time your kid's 16, 17, legally 18 in some states, countries, they're going to want to be, they're going to turn to OnlyFans and prostitution. And then that could lead to the drugs, the alcohol, the sexual abuse, and you're just grooming your child subliminally because you don't want to pay attention and parent, and you just throw a device in their hand. So with that device, make sure you're educating them the other side of what the world is going to attack them for. Knowledge is power. So give them the tools and educate both sides of it.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, and I didn't realize. See, God works in mysterious ways, because things happen in my life and then magically the podcast walks right into where I can speak about it. So it's awesome. A couple of weeks ago, was probably a month or two ago, I took YouTube away from my boys, because they'll sit on YouTube and they'll just watch shit nonstop, whatever it is, whether it's these freaking influencers or whatever bullshit they're watching. And they started getting really mean. And really like it's like crack, like, oh my God, I have to finish 5 more minutes. I got to finish my video, and then I'm going to swipe and watch the next video and blah, 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 whatever. And so finally I took YouTube off of their phone. I said, we're done with this. And for a while, a couple of weeks, they didn't actually realize you could just go into a browser and type in YouTube and magically YouTube shows back up again. But someone needed to look something up for school. And I said, well, yes, go into the browser and type in YouTube and you can watch it was like a band song or something. And I was like, son of a bitch, I told them. Well, then it started coming for a couple of weeks, it was so nice. Like they were nice to each other. They were nice to us and all these things. And then they figured this trick out that they can do. And all over the last few weeks, they just got meaner and nastier. And like they're watching all of these kids, they're not kids, whatever, all of these people who are paid to be bullies to each other and to sit up all night while playing video games and to do all of these things. And we're like, they don't realize, but like you realize that's fake, right? Like somebody is controlling that. They don't live in a mansion. They don't have all of this shit. They don't have any of these things. But you at 11 and 13 and 12 have no idea that this really isn't real at all. And so my 11-year-old is in 6th grade and I'd say he's kind of more of a follower, which hurts my heart instead of just being that strong leader of a man. I'm trying to get him there, but he sees that and he thinks bullying is funny because that's what these people do. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Like I'm warning you now, if I find out you do this, you will owe nothing and you will sit in your room with nothing and I'll kick your ass all the way home. Like, what are we doing?
You're going to learn what a real bully is.
Yeah, exactly. Your mother. But I mean, it's that sort of stuff. And it's funny because I even thought last night, like, I need to bring this up on our podcast, that we as parents really need to be watching what they're watching. And that doesn't mean you need to watch all their nonsense and be all part of it, but watch their behavior. Because if they start acting funny or they start acting mean or like what's the guy's name in the Lord of the Rings? I can't think of what.
Golem.
Thank you. Yes, we're like precious. That they can't let their phone go away because they have to watch whatever it is. Like that's not safe for them. That's not healthy for them. And us as adults, we'll find ourselves scrolling and doing whatever. And you've spent 15 minutes and not even gotten up off the couch. And it's like, and we're adults and we know better. So it's really hurting their brain.
Yeah. Going off of that too, and the mental health aspect, what are some things that you do for fun when you're not making music, which you usually are?
Picking people off.
Yeah, I mean, anything to get outside, honestly. We take our dog for a walk, we'll go work out. Those are kind of the two main things, but just being outside and breathing fresh air is a huge, that's a game changer right there. I think people have been so used to, like, especially with COVID, like, I'm just going to stay inside for 2 weeks straight and not even go breathe oxygen. So that's huge. Just go outside, spend like 20 minutes outside every day. And man, that's a big one.
Are you a big winter outdoor person, like snowmobiling or sledding or skiing?
I don't get way into it. I like to be out there, but I don't do a whole bunch of skiing or anything. I probably should make time.
I'm originally from Wisconsin and I now live in the desert for a reason. So
there you go.
I get the cold.
I run really hot, so I love the snow. I love the cold. Probably because I was born and raised in Arizona, so I was
done with that
at birth. Yeah.
Yep, you're done with that. I know it's funny because all of you native folk, you're like, oh, it's raining, I love it. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. This is what I grew up with. I don't want this.
The thunderstorms are incredible in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
They're crazy.
Can you share I don't know how I want to word this. Can you share your experience of looking back on your life and your music, and even as the man you were then to now, all your success and where you are today and how much you've grown? Just like, I know most people don't often take those moments to celebrate like their accomplishments and all the success.
Yeah.
Can you just share kind of that experience of looking back from then till now? Because most people don't often see that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, man, when I was drinking and trying to make music, it was very bad because half the time I couldn't remember, I couldn't even speak. And I was trying to record music half drunk, and honestly, a lot of the music was really depressing, like almost all of it, because I felt so terrible. And that was kind of just a reflection of kind of what was going on inside of me. And now, I think it feels weird to make a depressing song like Home. Home was pretty depressing, but also there was like healing in that. It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
me telling my story to help and to find like resolution in myself. But man, that was all I used to make, was kind of like sad, like music with no um kind of no positive points. It was all just down. And so yeah, looking back now, kind of being sober and having my faith back, and I mean, life is pretty amazing. And I'm super grateful that God loves me and He was looking out for me, because I mean, I can write a song in a day, as to where I could barely put music out 10 years ago. And um, I'm blessed. I'm happily married and almost 7 years sober. So I mean, looking back, life isn't even the same. And I think the people that knew me back then would hardly recognize, the person that I am now. And so probably because the beard, but also because my also because my heart has changed. I'm just I'm a different person. So my 30s have been good,
Good.
and
And
we're only halfway there. So
good. And that's something to really speak to, that if you are, I mean, at any age, but if you are younger, you have the rest of your life to figure it out. And I mean, you don't, I shouldn't say you don't know what we have, but we'll pretend that you do. And it just takes that one moment to step into the right side and continue down that path to
Mhm.
totally change who you are. So I love that you stated that, because yeah, 7 years ago, you never thought you'd be here.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not a chance. I always thought like I mean, we can convince ourselves too. Like there was a point in my life where I was like, I like to be sad. Like I would convince myself, because I was just used to feeling that way. We get caught in the ways that we live, and we, convince ourselves that, well, this is just my life now.
Well,
And it's sad.
and it works that way for people who are unhealthy as well. Like that's the journey I
Mhm.
went through. Is 4 years ago I found out I had autoimmune, and so then it's like, all right, it's time to get healthy and figure it out. And people
Yeah.
don't know what it feels like on the other side. So to try and convince people like, don't eat this, don't do this, they're like, oh no, it's fine, I feel fine. It's like, but you don't know how much better you can feel
True.
if you don't. And it's hard, it's just something you have to go through. You can't necessarily convince someone of.
Very true. Unfortunately, we can try to help.
Tried to convince a lot of people of a lot of things.
Yeah.
That just goes back to they have to want that change for themselves. Like we can't, as much as we try, we could plant seeds though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we try.
God has to have that ready for them to do that. Like I fully believe God woke me up for a reason. And because again, I people also are in my situation, or any situation, they're like, well, I'd rather just take a pill, or I'd rather just
Mm,
do whatever. And so there's easy
yeah.
ways, but I think God definitely is like, all right, your plan is to now wake up. Figure it
Bouncing,
out.
True.
yeah, bouncing off of that comment of taking a pill and big pharma society and again, entertainment industry, you often hear weed and all of popping pills and that being pushed on the kids and younger these
Mm,
days. So for any artist making music, whether they're currently an artist or wanting to, their dream is to become an artist. When you're in that creative mode, and most, I know, speaking of people that I know, they feel like when they're in that creative block and they can't write, what are some things that you do, or do you step out of a certain environment to then grab inspiration for some of your music? Because some artists, I know, they feel that they have to get super drunk or high or
mm.
pop a pill to get in that creative block. and then you can't understand half the shit that they say. Like, do you, when you're trying to, when you hit that creative block, do you step out of a certain environment, or where do you get your inspiration from?
I honestly will just play. I like to play video games a little bit. So honestly, I'll just take a break and go do something fun, and not worry about it. Because I mean, if you feel like you need a substance, then that kind of becomes a crutch, right? And then that kind of makes you weaker than you could be, just kind of pursuing it clear-minded. So yeah, I would honestly, I'll mess on my Nintendo Switch. I'll play on that for a little bit, and then I'll kind of get back to it, and kind of see what I'm feeling. But yeah, I try not to get caught on one idea. If I'm not feeling a certain idea, I'll just go to something else and likely come back to the other one. But bouncing around has been useful for me, and trying not to pressure yourself or like make yourself, I have to do only this. So yeah, I'll go do something fun, and I'll come back and maybe try something different. And that's always been helpful for me, because I mean, you got to recharge.
Yeah, I think that helps being independent too, because it's not like it's kind of like an author with a publisher where you need to write another book, and you're like, I don't have anything to write on or whatever, and now you can just kind of let it flow where it does, or song goes halfway and I'm like, I'm done with that one, we'll go somewhere else and see where it goes.
Yeah, that's super helpful. If they said I had to make the same song over and over again, I probably wouldn't want to do it anymore.
Right?
Especially with the same message.
Yeah. Well, and they wouldn't let you write the songs you write. So
right. Very true. Maybe one or two of them, but not many.
Not many. Could you take that word out of there?
Yeah. All the words.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nowadays you almost want to be an independent artist, even though it's much harder, because man, for the longest time I was like, I just need to get signed, I need to work hard and be noticed. And now it's like I just needed to meet the right people and continue to build with them. And that's kind of the main thing I think for any artist coming up is having that discipline and working with people that kind of understand and have the same mentality and the same discipline that you have. Otherwise, you'll end up pulling the weight. And for us, for Space Force, for me and the guys, we've always been very clear as to what needs to get done, and we get it done, and we have a good time doing it. And so artists, I think, get caught in these traps, like, let me tag the most famous artists on my page and hopefully they'll notice me. Well, that's just not how you do it. I mean, you can, even if they share your video, it's not going to get you anywhere. So
right.
Yeah, it's going to be hard work for sure.
Well, and interact with your fans, your followers.
Yeah. That was part of making those videos, because I knew that just sharing little snippets of my music wasn't going to do enough, and showing my personality and being a goofball and being my true self was like a big part of my growth. Was hey, here's how I really act.
Right.
When I'm not being
even
serious.
the three of you with your goofy videos, like, it's just fun to watch, and it makes, like, that's what you share, and people are like, who is this? And then that's what brings them into your music. And
Yep.
Well, too, and then the best part is, like, you guys connect not only with your whole community, like, it grows and it continues to grow, and so many people can relate to you because you guys are showing your authentic self, and it's genuine. Like, there's so many conversations where you guys are all on live, always talking with everybody who follows you and supports you. I think so many artists forget that without your fan base and that community behind you, you would have nothing. And you guys have created that family atmosphere and have literally shifted everything from the memes to the vision. I'm going to say visions all over, from like your videos to what the memes are looking like, the censorship and how to get it somewhat past it, even though you still get censored. You guys have really showed different ways of connecting. Okay, you want to hit me with this block? Cool. We're going to go here. We're going to do our website. You want merch?
Yeah.
We're going to go support this. And you guys are also giving back and supporting those people who are supporting you. So whether it be entrepreneurs or like the military community with like your guys's merch lines and different stuff that you're doing, you're really connecting with everybody on a personal level. So you guys have really embodied that as well, as most artists, especially in the entertainment industry right now, are not touching on any of that. So I love it.
I mean, for me, it's like taking a step back and realizing, like, as much as I love making music, someone else has another purpose and they're pursuing that as hard as I love music. And so why should I not try to help someone that's pursuing, like you guys are with, you know, your podcast and human trafficking? Like, that's what you're passionate about. Why would I not try to help you, you know, get where you need to get?
That.
Yeah, of course. This is about everybody. And the bottom line will always be trying to help people. And, you know, that's ultimately what it's about, right? We're trying to help each other get to the right place when we pass, and hopefully we'll see you there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and, right. And with all of that, everyone rises together. And I love how you guys show that, especially with all the artists you're collabing on music with all of your albums. You guys are showing that on every album and showing love to one another and really pushing that community and love and light, because most artists, you don't see them jumping on tracks with one another and shouting each other out or sharing each other's album. Like, they're all battling for the #1 spot, where you guys are like, okay, cool, you're releasing this date, we'll release this date, we'll all hit #1. If we feature on each other's, we're all going to the top.
Yeah, like I don't know who you are, but you have a good vibe. So come on and let's join our circle and let's see what we can do.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if someone is saying things that I can agree with, then I'm always open to work with other people, and hopefully we can help each other grow and succeed and kind of build the, you know, the whole Christian and conservative kind of rap scene. And yeah, let's give people options. I mean, they don't need to be listening to me all the time. That's perfectly fine. They don't want to be crying. Sometimes you don't want that.
But you're versatile. You're versatile. You touch on all genres, which I love.
I try.
All of you
I
do.
try.
You're not afraid to sing, but then be vulnerable. Then you got rap too. So
yeah.
Well, and that's what I like. That's kind of the same vibe and feel about what we do with survivors or truth tellers or whatever. The idea is that, yeah, I can say you're wrong or whatever, but how about we just grow our circle? Because at some point, people are going to have to pay attention to us. And again, whether that's Christian or conservative or freedom or just believing what people are saying, then that's what it is. But we can, the bigger we get, even if we all start small, if it's not this ego trip of, oh, you're not doing what I want to do, or I want to be in the limelight, that just makes the whole movement bigger, and it just helps everybody. So I think that, again, I know that we've often kind of cross-pollinated, where it's like, yeah, you're not doing human trafficking, but we get to show what awesome music you're doing, and you get to promote what we're doing, and it only just helps everybody. It's awesome.
Yeah. Let's build each other up.
Yeah. Well, too, we often say everyone has a story and everyone is a survivor of something. So going back, you never know what somebody's going through. Like, you guys are vets and you have stories and you have so much that you experienced at such a young age, being in the military, to now you're an adult. So even you guys dealing with that trauma, and you don't always have the services there to help you to even get past that trauma or to deal with it. And you guys have touched on and like dealt with so much trauma at a young age, even being in active duty. And so even though people are like, oh, well, for our podcast, we don't just say it's just for human trafficking. We cover all survivors because, again, everyone at some point in their life has experienced some sort of trauma, whether it's childhood trauma and the abuse and domestic violence and different aspects of everything going on in people's lives. So everyone is a survivor of something and everyone does have a voice. So just know that like you're not alone and
Right.
being able to
True.
relate to one another.
And if we can help people in the adult world, then that means that we help future children.
Yep.
Very true.
Let's make sure their world's better.
Facts. I'm going to throw you on the spot for a second.
Because she hasn't done that yet.
Uh-oh.
Right? If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
I would probably spend 30 seconds thinking of something good to say.
Time's up. Just kidding.
It's over. It's okay. That's hard.
Man, that's always a tough one. I like to usually go the route of your thoughts aren't facts. That's always one that's stuck with me just for the mental health kind of aspect. I think we all get caught up in kind of buying into the things that we think over time, and sometimes that gets us caught in a bad place. And it's good to kind of talk about those thoughts that you have, whether it be writing them down to kind of seeing that they're just, words, or if it means talking to someone, doing therapy, whatever. I've done both, and I'm glad that I have. So I would say to kind of just question your thoughts from time to time, especially if they're negative ones, and you're beating yourself down. Don't do that. That would kind of be my bit of advice to everybody.
Love it. Perfect advice.
Thank you.
If we can go into what's next as far as music, I know you're always making music, so, and whatever else you feel comfortable sharing, what's next for you?
Yeah, so always music. We have a few songs on the way with myself, TMR and Topher and MJ Hanks. They did the I Left My Home. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but it was like a army, like kind of chant. Yeah, so we have one similar to that.
Yeah. That's, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so they did that, and they've included me on the next one called Semper Fi, which is like it's a Marine kind of cadence.
Doesn't he have something coming out on like the 28th that he's teasing everybody with right now?
Yep.
Is that guy? Okay.
Yeah. So that's next week.
That's
and
cool.
Then one that we haven't talked about is kind of another similar one with the three of us for Space Force that Killa Vic produced, who also produced Make It Make Sense. And Killa Vic is also a Marine vet too, so he's really big in our circle for sure. And of course, Enemy number 2 should be out next month as well, in February. And Topher's album drops on the 22nd of February, so 222 he'll be dropping his album. So lots and lots of music coming early this year. I'll be doing probably my first video for the album, recording that next week, and then a new video coming soon. So yeah, tons of stuff. I've been pretty quiet actually online and just working really hard. So I mean, I can knock an album out in probably 2 to 3 months as long as I'm going. So that was kind of the plan, and we're close. But yeah, I have Bryson, obviously, the Marine rapper, Topher, High Res, who's done a lot with Jimmy Levy, and then Rare of Breed. I don't know if you've heard of Rare of Breed, but he's another rapper that's Christian and really good. So a lot of awesome artists that will be on the album, and yeah, it's exciting.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.
I know.
So where would they?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say we're only 2 months, about to be 2 months in. You guys are dropping out music left and right, especially TMR. I'm like, dang, don't give anybody.
Yeah, he's a machine.
Not
every week. Yeah, he's because that used to be me, and I think he's kind of taken my place. So he's next level with getting the music out.
Nice. So where can they get your merchandise? I know for those watching, you can see that you have your shirt on, says Make It Make Sense, which is fantastic because nobody is yet to make it make sense. So.
They can't figure it out.
Nope.
So yeah, you can get this shirt on ironcladresolve.com. And it should be the first shirt you see when you pull the website up. Yeah. Thank you for supporting us. You can find me on Instagram at Andrew Raps. I made it very difficult, and all my tags are different across sites. So my TikTok is at Bearded Rapper. Honestly, I think if you search D.Cure, D.Cure, you can still find me everywhere. Yeah. Easier that way.
We'll make sure to link it all in our show notes.
Thanks.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you again. We truly do appreciate you joining our podcast. And
Thank you.
yeah, just know that if there's anything that we can do to help, we're here to help and support. And
Likewise.
we're going to share everything, no matter censorship.
I appreciate that.
We'll all be banned together.
Yeah, you know, if we're all going to be in censorship jail, at least it'll be fun.
Yeah,
Right.
the band team.
Yeah,
We're all bands
right?
together.
I know. Could you imagine the day that like all of the artists, like all the conservative artists that you're working with right now, all of you on one stage? Like, man, that's a problem.
Bridget, I feel like you're going to need to work on that. Figure out how to do that.
Trust
Get
me.
that
We
done.
hope. Yeah, we did one show last year in Arizona, in Taylor, Arizona.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I'm not sure where
Yeah.
it is, but I know of it.
I think we're gonna do another one this year. So let's
Sweet.
hope.
Well, if you do, whoever's doing it, let me know, because I saw the last one and I didn't even know about it. So I was like, man, this could have been done so much better. No offense if whoever's listening.
For
But-
sure. No, we didn't probably share enough, and I don't know if our visuals were top notch or anything, but hopefully we can level
yeah,
up this year.
I will definitely love to help, even
Okay.
being in our state, because yeah,
Okay.
I got you with promoting that one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anywhere, but Arizona for sure. We're here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I volunteer. We volunteer ourselves, but
Right, exactly.
but as we wrap up, just want to share, because we live in an age of censorship and copyrights, just know that for this episode and our outro, we may get censored, because even though we already are, we may get deleted off YouTube. And that's the risk we're willing to take, and take a stand for the truth and what's right. We will stand with D.Cure and make it make sense, as his new song with Bryson was banned almost immediately off YouTube. We are grateful for the real men and vets. So thank you again for your service, as D.Cure and Space Force, Topher and TMR have used their platform to allow podcasts just like us to have an opportunity to have a voice. Together, we will continue to speak the truth in love, light, and through God, all things are possible. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Know that you're not alone. So please make sure to like, share, comment on everyone's content who's spreading the truth. Support the military, the vets, the independent artists. And again, anyone speaking the truth right now, please continue to push everything that they're putting out there, and buy the merch. Support them in everything that they do. As always, survivors, we hear you, we see you, we stand by you, sending you love, light, and blessings. Our outro will definitely be Make It Make Sense.
Let's go.
Be sure to check out Bryson Gray's latest song, Make It Make Sense, featuring D.Cure. And be sure to check out D.Cure's upcoming video dropping on 2/15 for his upcoming project, Enemy 2, which drops on March 4th.
Ayy, they said people with the vaccine ain't dying. Weird. We can't get vaccine data for 75 years. Do y'all remember the flu? It seemed like it disappeared. You need to open your eyes. They controlling you with fear. Ayy, please stop pushing all these vaccines. The mRNA is what's leading to spike proteins. Adverse reactions and deaths is something that we all seen. But politicians get paid by big pharma, so they all clean. Wait, make it make sense, make it make sense. They switch when the deep they tell them to, now they rich. They said there wouldn't be no mandates, but then they flip. Encourage you to get tested so they can boost the cases. Wait,
make it make sense, make it make sense. I just say the truth, I don't make friends. They would not move, rather play defense. I got their hands clenched, but no amens. Make it make sense, make it make sense. I just say the truth, I don't make friends. They would not move, rather play defense. kill a kid than wear a latex. They'd rather kill a kid than practice safe sex. Tell me how's it feel to be unreal, to make threats. My 2 ways why you're too late. Everybody can't ride this new wave. Hit it with a point there like touche. Try to say, but if I'm too hate, maybe I'm too late. When I contemplate, got you wound up like a pasta plate. Lost your way. When I lose every cop in the US, but a few cops you hate. And there's another way, but it's not their method. Met a Joe Rogan, he spoke highly of ivermectin. Your mind's been affected, or you wanna make friends. They make it to make ends. Only way it'll make sense. Make it make sense, make it make sense. I just say the truth, I don't make friends. They would not move, rather play defense. I got their hands clenched, but no amens. Make it make sense, make it make sense. I just say the truth, I don't make friends. They would not move, rather play defense. I got their hands clenched, but no amen. You say God first, but act different.
Make it make sense.
They accept you as a they, but not a Christian.
Make it make sense.
Thought I was dope till I had a position.
Make it make sense.
Change the game and we don't get a mention.
Make it make sense. They can offend my faith, but I'm bad if they offend it. Can't call out sin, but they got parades for when they send it. You not a woman, but competing against women. Pulls vaccine cards, but say gay wedding cakes are different.
Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I just say the truth, I don't make friends. They would not move, rather play defense. I got their hands clenched, but no amens. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I just say the truth, I don't make friends. They would not move, rather play defense. I got their